Okay, so we're in the week of Parshas Naso, and as always, we're trying to learn the parsha in a way that it speaks to us. Hashem is speaking to us directly through everything we experience, through ourselves, through our feelings, through our thoughts. Hashem is speaking to us through the things that happen around us, and Hashem is speaking to us through the parsha. As the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Tanya, was known to have said, is that a Jew needs to live with the times. And he didn't mean that they need to live with the times, that they need to go with the trends of the day. He meant you need to live with the times, you need to live with the parsha of the week. So Parshas Naso begins, Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lamor. That Hashem speaks to Moshe, sorry, is that the beginning? Yeah. Hashem speaks to Moshe saying as follows, Naso is rosh Bnei Gershon, gam heim. Lift up, count the heads of the children of Gershon, also them. So what is this that we're singling out the children of Gershon? And what does it mean, also them? Why by them does it say also them? Gam heim, also them. So the word Gershon, which is their name, but again it hints to us something for us, is from the word Gimel Resh Shin. A grusha is a divorced person. A garush is somebody who is sent away. Gershon, as a name, the root of that word means to be sent away. So Bnei Gershon means it's referring to the people who have experienced a sense of being sent away, a sense of not being part of it, not belonging, not being in the inner core, not being central. And that's why it's saying gam heim, even them, also them, right? The people who are part of it naturally, the people who who are central. So it's obvious that they're counted. It's obvious that they're lifted up. But Bnei Gershon, when it comes to those who have a sense of being sent away, gam heim, also them, make sure to count. Make sure to count them. Now, what job do they get when you count them? These psukim, these parshas are giving jobs to the different parts of Bnei Yisrael. It's giving each of them a different job. So what job does Bnei Gershon get? So the Torah tells us that they get the job of carrying the Urios and the Michse Hatachash and the Masach Pesach Ohel Moed. What does that mean? What do those things mean? It means that they carry the tapestries and the coverings and the curtains. So with the Ohel Moed, the Mishkan, that was taken apart and put together, and it was carried in different parts of the Shevet Levi, were in charge of carrying different aspects of the Mishkan. So the job of Bnei Gershon that they were given was to carry the outer parts of the Mishkan. The coverings, the curtains, the tapestries. Why? So I think this is teaching us something profound. It's telling us that when it comes to the part of ourselves or the people in our world, sorry, hold on one second. I have to just pause for a second. Sorry about that. Okay. So what it's telling us is that when it comes to the parts of ourselves and the people around us in our lives that are Bnei Gershon, that have a sense of being sent away, a sense of being cut off, of being garush, being exiled, what do you need to do for them? You need to give them a job. This is what we spoke about last week. But what job specifically? So it's very interesting. It tells us, give them the job of something external, something visible. What job did the Bnei Gershon get? The curtains, the coverings, the outer part of the Mishkan, which meant that every time they walked by the Mishkan, they would see the curtain that they were carrying. They would see the aspect of the Mishkan that they were in charge of, and they would see it set up, and they would see it displayed. It was the most visible part of the Mishkan. To see the other parts of the Mishkan, you have to go inside. When you go inside, okay, so now you see all the different parts. But from the outside, what part are you going to see when you're passing by? The most externally displayed part of the Mishkan is the part that the Bnei Gershon were given. And what I'm thinking about, this is a thought in progress, so hopefully it makes sense. You let me know what you think. But what the Bnei Gershon, those who feel cut off, those who feel distanced, those who feel that they don't have a place, that they're sent away, give them the job that has the most visibility, the most external. Now, naturally, we might sometimes think, but that's, external, that sounds like superficial, that has a negative association, a negative connotation. But the Torah is telling us, no, understand, it's okay. It's not necessarily a negative. Understand what they need. What they need is to feel that what they offer is front and center, is part of it. That they can feel that what they're doing is visible. Make them feel that their work, their job is seen, it's on display. So when we think of, maybe it's a child, maybe it's a student, maybe it's somebody in our community, somebody we know, and we can tell that they are from the group of Bnei Gershon. Now again, Bnei Gershon refers to a specific lineage in Klal Yisrael, children of a particular person named Gershon. But the way that we're learning the parsha, that the way the Zohar HaKadosh and the Baal Shem Tov teach us to learn the parsha, is that the Torah is speaking to every single one of us at all times. So Bnei Gershon is not only a specific person named Gershon and his children. Bnei Gershon means anyone in our world, in our lives that we see, and we can tell that they are experiencing a sense of being garush, of being cut off, sent away, not part of it. Find a way to give them a role that has visibility, that puts their work and their value and their talent on display. Not just that they have a job behind the scenes, but something visible. And for ourselves, we shouldn't be embarrassed or bashful or feel like there's something wrong with needing or feeling that we need to do something that people can see. Sometimes we get a message like, no, if you need to be seen, that's a negative, you shouldn't need the attention. We have to know ourselves, and we have to know who we're working with. And sometimes it's okay to need the attention. Use the need for attention in a holy way. If somebody needs attention and they're not getting the attention they need in a holy way, they're not going to stop seeking attention. They're going to continue seeking attention, and they're going to seek attention in unholy ways. Because there is a part of a person, of every person, and specifically Bnei Gershon, specifically the parts of a person that feel sent away, cut off, that needs attention, that thirsts for attention. And if they're not getting that attention, they're going to find it in other ways. So don't be embarrassed of that. It's not a negative. What the Torah is telling us is seek out the Bnei Gershon and give them the opportunities that have visibility. Give them the part of the Mishkan that they carry that's on the outside. That's the first thing. And then the Torah goes on and tells us about another group of people in Klal Yisrael. Not Bnei Gershon, but Bnei Merari. Merari is from the word mar. Again, literally in the Torah, Bnei Merari refers to a specific group of people, a lineage, the children of a person named Merari. But we're learning it, that Merari is the word mar. It means bitter. People who are carrying bitterness. Now, bitterness is different. Mar is different than garush. Bnei Merari is different than Bnei Gershon. Again, what I'm sharing with you right now is a brand new thought, so I hope it makes sense. I'm thinking about this morning, and I'm sharing it with you as I think about it. The way it lands with me is that Gershon is the people who feel cut off, totally severed from being part of it. Bnei Merari, those who are bitter, bitterness is not a sense of being sent away. It's not a sense of being garush. Bitterness is a sense of, I'm here, I'm part of it, but I have a bitterness towards it. Maybe in a sense, it's even like a resentment. Bnei Merari, what comes up for me as I'm thinking about people who feel that they're part of a community, part of the tzibor, but they feel that they have noticed and they've seen things in the tzibor that make them feel very bitter towards the tzibor. They feel bitter about this world that they're part of. They feel bitter about something in their lives. It's not that they feel cut off from it. They actually feel part of it, but there's a bitterness about it. Something doesn't sit well with them. Maybe it's a child who has a very discerning nature, by nature, that's how they are, and they grow up in a community and they're bothered by inconsistencies that they see in the people around them. Maybe it's someone who is part of the community and then something happens and it creates a bitterness for them. So they're not garush, they're mar. So what's the Torah telling us? When it comes to those who are garush, you need to understand who they are and give them what they need, which is give them the external attention, giving their job something that's on display. Bnei Merari, it tells us, give them a different job. It's a different job. Here's what you're supposed to give them. Karshei ha-Mishkan ubricha va'amuda va'adanav ve'amudei ha-chatzer saviv va'adneihem v'yasedoseim meisreim. What does that mean? The beams, the pillars, the bars, the sockets, that's what they carry. So the Bnei Gershon carry the curtains and the outer display of the Mishkan. The Bnei Merari, they carry the internal structure of the Mishkan. They carry the beams and the pillars that go underneath those cloths and those tapestries and those curtains. And I think what it's telling us is that the parts of ourselves or the people in our lives that we sense have a bitterness, have a mar, the Bnei Merari, what do they need? They don't necessarily need something that's about attention or visibility. They need something that feels more foundational, more grounded, more about solidifying the internal aspect of things. They need, when the person has bitterness towards something, what they need to feel that they can fix what's wrong, that they can take on a role of fixing what's wrong from the inside. It's not that I feel sent away or cut off, that I need something to give me a sense of I'm part of it and therefore I need to be on display as part of it. That's the Bnei Gershon. Bnei Merari is I have a bitterness because I think there's something wrong with what's going on the inside of this world that I live in. So what job should you give them? Something that addresses that specifically. Give them a job that gives them the empowerment to fix things from the inside out. Give them the pillars. Give them the beams, the sockets, that they're rebuilding. They're in charge of the inner construction, the foundational supports of the system. Give them the job of being in charge of that. That they can feel, yes, you know what? You're right, you have a bitterness about it. So here, I'm actually empowering you to fix what's wrong from the inside out. That's Bnei Gershon and Bnei Merari. And then there's actually a third. A third is the next group of people, which is what comes afterwards in Parshas Naso, in our parsha. Once again, Vayedaber Hashem al Moshe Limar, Hashem speaks to Moshe saying, Tzavis b'nei Yisrael, command the Jewish people, v'yishalchu min hamachane kol tzarua v'chol zav v'chol tamei lanefesh. There's a group of people that need to be sent out of the machane. It's interesting. We just talked about Bnei Gershon, those who are sent out or feel sent out. How do you bring them back in? Those who have bitterness, how do you give them a sense of rebuilding from the inside? And then it tells us, but you know what? Actually, there are some people who actually need to be sent out. Because there are some times that the right approach to helping somebody is not to spoon feed them an opportunity for them to feel like their work is on display. And it's not to feed them an opportunity to feel that they can change things from the inside out. It's actually to give them the opportunity to discover what they need to discover on their own. To give them the space that they might not want you to give them, but to give them space to actually, in a sense, force them into their own space by not just trying to pick them up, and actually by sending them out, giving them space that they have to figure it out. They have to take some ownership for themselves. They have to examine. They have to introspect. They have to not just be picked back up by somebody else. They have to figure out how to pick themselves up, or figure out how to ask for help themselves at least. So which one is right? Does a person need the outer attention? Does a person need to be able to change things from the inside? Does a person need to be left alone to pick up the pieces of their own mess? I think the most profound message of what we see in this parsha is that all three are true. It's not one or the other. You'll sometimes hear people talk about, how we can help people by picking them up and giving them opportunity in ways that it's about visibility. You'll hear people talk about giving people empowerment to change things from the inside. Then you'll talk about people. You'll hear people talk about, helping people by giving them they have to take their own ownership. And what the Torah is teaching us is don't ever think it's one or the other of those three, that there's one answer. There's different people out there. There's something called Bnei Gershon, there's something called Bnei Merari, and there's something called Tsarua, Zav, Tameh Lenefesh. And different people or different parts of even one person and different situations and different times in life call for different responses. So maybe the most profound message of the whole thing is to make sure that you're actually attuning yourself to what's needed here. Don't project onto the situation the same answer that this is what a person needs. You don't know. You have to figure out who you're talking to. You have to figure out what's going on here. What's the issue? And if I understand the issue, I can try to figure out how to address it. And the Torah is telling us of 3 different paths. But maybe by telling us of 3 different paths, it's actually telling us that there's an endless amount of paths because there's an endless amount of people, each with something else going on. These 3 paths in particular, I think, are very, very fascinating. The Bnei Gershon, those who feel like they have no role in anything, give them a role that has a lot of visibility. The Bnei Merari, those who feel that they have a bitterness about the way things are, give them a role of fixing the things they're bitter about. Give them a role of changing the internal structure of how things play out, how things are run. And then the third category, people who sometimes need you to not give them anything and actually leave them in a situation where they have to figure out what to build and what to create and what to take for themselves as opposed to just being given. Wishing everybody a good Shabbos, and we should always be able to lift up all the parts of ourselves and all the other people who might at times be in a situation of Bnei Gershon or Bnei Merari or being Nishlach min HaMachane. Have a great Shabbos.